Hello and welcome to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, a resource center located here in Naperville for people in career transition. If you are unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, this show is for you. Career Center will bring human resource professionals and other experts together to provide job search tips to assist you as you search for your next success. Today I'm joined by author and motivational speaker Conor Cunneen. Conor has written several books on job transition, and you speak about SHIEFGAB, which is an acronym. Yeah. And I want you just to elaborate on that, and let's talk about the first 6 that we spoke on.
Right, okay. SHIEFGAB is an acronym for 8 building blocks that if the job seeker adopts them and adapt them will help them to stay sane, motivated and productive during what is a really tough time. Mm-hmm. And if they can stay sane, motivated and productive, they're going to find that job faster than the person who isn't able to do that. And SHIEFGAB, the acronym spells out, S is for structure, and job seekers need to have structure in their day and in their week. H is about helping others, and when you help others, you'll hear 2 of the most motivational words in the English language, which are thank you, which will make you feel better. E is about environment, and job seekers tend not to change their environment, which means they lose motivation, they lose stimulus, and I encourage people to change their environment. I is about improving yourself for the interview, and while you're at the job search, improve yourself so you can walk into that interview and say, I'm a better candidate now than when I left my last job. F is about family and friends and your interaction with them. So they're the first 5 letters of SHIEFGAB. And then GAB is about goals, attitudes, behavior. And last time we spoke about G, and the important thing about G is if you achieve a small, highly achievable goal, you'll feel better about yourself.
And I like that. You call that SHAG.
Yeah, S-H-A-G, yeah.
So today we're going to focus on A and B, and I know A is attitude. And in your book you say you can choose your attitude by asking one simple question. What do I want my attitude to be?
Right, yeah. Now, you know, Kim, that it's tough to have a positive attitude when you're in job search. It's tough to have a positive attitude all of the time, but the job seeker has got to have the right attitude when they have to have the right attitude. And that means when they're going to the interview or their networking meetings. And sometimes it is difficult, but the question to ask when times are tough is a question, what do I want my attitude to be? And I think if you ask yourself that question, you're not going to say, I want to be frustrated, I want to be angry about this job transition process. If you ask, what do I want my attitude to be? You'll say, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be frustrated. I think when you answer it that way, you'll make some effort not to be angry and not to be frustrated.
Yeah, when you put on SHIEFGAB, you tell different stories. And I know in your book you talk about being pulled over by a cop. There's a story where you talk about being pulled over.
Don't tell the world that.
But share a little bit about that, because it really comes down to attitude.
Yeah, it is about the attitude. Yeah. And I mean, like everyone else, I've had a few little contretemps with the Illinois finest from time to time. Nothing too serious. But on one occasion, I was pulled for going through a slightly red light, as I called it.
Slightly red light.
And,
okay, Conor.
The cop, I asked myself the question, what do I want my attitude to be? And I kind of said, well, there's no point in being antsy about this. And I also reckoned he wouldn't get the concept of a slightly red light. So I asked myself, what do I want my attitude to be? As he walked up towards me, I said, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be upset about this. Now, whatever way the conversation started, he asked for my license, he asked for my insurance. And as he was looking at my license, he said, sir, I like your attitude. And I'm thinking, crikey, this question does work. And as a result, the conversation just it got even more affable and friendlier as we went on. But then he looked at my insurance and he said, sir, your insurance is out of date. Now, I blamed my wife for that one, as any good man would do.
Poor Pat.
Poor Pat, yeah. But he said to me, look, you don't look like a guy who drives around without insurance. And there was a story about that. I had a certificate all right, but not on me. But he said, look, I'll give you a break on the insurance, but I'm going to cite you for going through the red light. So we had another bit of a conversation. He went back to his car. I had to turn the car around and drive by the police officer, because I pulled into a small parking lot. And as I drove by him, I kid you not, the police officer, he waved to me
Waved.
with a genuine smile.
Yeah.
This actually did happen. And I thought, this is stupid. I mean, this guy's fined me $75. And I waved back to him.
Right.
But the point I make to my audience, when I'm speaking to job seekers or people in a corporate environment, is that I asked myself, what do I want my attitude to be?
It all comes down to that, yeah.
It resonated with him some way or other, and he had a good attitude, so it worked out quite well. And someone did say to me afterwards that not only did that incident help me, but probably the next time that cop pulled someone, he was still probably in a reasonably good form. So he made a taking it easy with the next person as well.
So you paid it forward in a
So
way.
I paid it forward without even realizing it. The $75 I paid it forward.
Paid it forward. All right, Conor. You also talk about another A, which is ageism,
Yeah.
and how that affects job seekers. Let's
Right.
spend a little bit of time
Yeah.
talking about that.
Well, you know, and I, Kim, know that ageism doesn't exist. Yeah,
Right.
okay. And corporate will never admit it exists. But naturally, without anything going on paper, there is a tendency towards it. But job seekers, though, need to address the issue
get ahead
themselves.
of that,
They
right.
can get ahead of it. I mean, think of people like Bruce Springsteen. He's 65 years of age, goes out on stage, does 4-hour concerts. We've got Leonard Cohen, 80 years of age, will do a 3-hour concert.
Right.
And they're full of energy, and they're full of enthusiasm. The Rolling Stones, others. And what job seekers need to do is they need to walk into the interview, if they're boomers, showing a level of energy, not going crazy, not as if they're on drugs or anything, but just an energy. And even if they're not physically energetic, they should be at least intellectually energetic. And that, I think that is important for job seekers.
So, and you say you don't necessarily have to have that physical energy if you can show that intellectual
energy or
more so.
the mental energy. So another example I quote is that the person who's interviewing a baby boomer is going to be 15, 20 years younger than them. That person has just come off their Twitter or Facebook or maybe LinkedIn. That baby boomer, I think, needs to show that they are at least contemporary. And one of the ways to do that is just to drop somewhere or other that you're contemporary and knowledgeable about social media. You don't have to be an expert on that, but don't come across as being a dinosaur.
Right. And then, so the knowledge should be able to transfer to capability and ability to get to work, to get...
Yeah. I mean, why are they going to take you on? Forget about age. They want to take you on because you can do something for the company. What is it you can do for that company? And show that you've got a knowledge and a skill set that will bring benefit to the company.
And you also talk about walking into a room feeling 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
And bulletproof.
Bulletproof, yeah. The thing is that, as I said, you got to have the right attitude when you have to have the right attitude. And you can prepare for the interview by getting your mind in place. Job transition is a mind game. And I think for job seekers, if they can spend a few times each day for the 4 or 5 days before the interview, structure it, go back to our first building block, structure time to do things that makes them feel good. So, for instance, listen to Zig Ziglar tape or something, maybe for 1 hour each day. That's going to build you. Listen to your favorite music for half an hour each day, particularly maybe as you're going to the interview. That's going to build you. Listen to your favorite comedian before you go into the interview. You're going to walk in then with a smile on your face, and you're going to feel better about yourself. And when you're feeling better about yourself, that will obviously project and it'll make an impact on the overall perception that you're going to create.
And just to sum up, you don't really have to know social media. You don't have to be, the end-all be-all on social media, but you have to have a knowledge of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't come across and say, oh, I think Twitter is a waste of space or Facebook is a waste of space. Well, you're writing goodbye to your interview, I think, at that stage.
Just embrace
it. But just embrace it and give us, show that you're contemporary in a lot of different things.
Okay.
I think that's important at the interview.
All right, great. Well, thanks. Up next, Conor and I will be right back to sum up Chief GAD right after these important messages.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
And we are back with Conor Cunneen, and we're going to sum up Chief Gap. We are going to talk about the letter B, which is behavior and brand. So let's get right to it.
Okay. B is the final element in Chief Gap. And the basic idea behind B, Kim, is that your behavior creates your brand. Your behavior determines what people say about you. And what people say about you is your brand. So the question for anyone, and particularly for job seekers, is what do people say about them? Which is basically their brand. So what is their brand?
What image do they want to project? Or
yes,
create?
yeah.
And you have it's called business, or your brand exercise with a business card, which I actually really like that.
Right, yeah. The basic exercise I suggest to people, again, whether it's job seekers or at a corporate event I'm doing, is take out a business card. Or a piece of paper. If you haven't got a business card, a piece of paper that's the size of your credit card or driving license, and write down on the back of that business card the 3 words you want someone to say about you after you've left the interview or after you've left.
After you've left.
Yeah. So, I mean, for instance, if a person is going to a networking event, what are the 3 words you want people to say about you after you've left the networking event? And more specifically, when a job seeker is going into an interview, I think one of the most important exercises they can do is write down and get it into their brain the 3 words that they want the interviewer or hiring manager to say about them after they've left the interview. And if they know what those 3 words are, then they can start crafting their material, their anecdotes, their stories to be able to address those elements, so the interviewer can say at the end of the session, hey, that person is proactive, energetic, good teamwork, something like that.
One of the stories you tell in this chapter is you talk about being successful, and you specifically mention why is Starbucks successful.
Right.
You know, the CEO there had written, I think, numerous business plans, and they kept getting rejected.
Right.
But you talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Howard Schultz is the driving force behind Starbucks. And if anyone wants to read 2 good business books, the 2 books by Schultz, you'll find them on Amazon, are really good business books. But he took over Starbucks, and Starbucks only had 6 units. And the first time he actually applied for a job in Starbucks, he was rejected by them. But he didn't give up. He went back to them and said, guys, you need me, kind of thing. And boy, were they right. So now he's got over 18,000 units, and there's a Starbucks in every corner. But it happened, 1, because he didn't give up. 2, the man is incredibly passionate and has a very clear idea of what he wants to do. And I think if you can go into an interview and show that you have a passion for something, doesn't even necessarily have to be the job that you're going after, but if you talk about your kids, family, or gardening, when you're talking about those, you're exhibiting a behavior. I think you're going to smile, you're going to be more energetic. So have some way that you can address your passions and your beliefs at the interview as well, because I think that'll make you more personable and bring you more alive.
So what are some other tips then you would share with job seekers about creating their brand, besides those 3 things on the business card? What are some other things?
Well, I think one of the things is to look after yourself. When I talk about structure, the first thing I say people should structure, job seekers, is time for themselves to recharge their batteries. And if you are the most brilliant person in the world, or the most brilliant person at your job, but if you have not recharged your batteries, and if you go into that interview feeling down, looking demotivated and not particularly well dressed, it's going to project. So I think the first thing that job seekers need to do is they need to make sure that they can walk into that interview 12 foot tall and bulletproof by looking after their health, by preparing for the interview, by asking themselves some things that, all right, what can I do to make myself feel better so I can walk into that interview?
And then you also talk about just being motivated and making sure that they're feeling really, really, really good. And
I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got 4 people going into an interview, you can be reasonably sure that they've got there because their resume says they should be there, which means that 4 of them are probably on the same kind of level. At the end of the day, the thing that may make the difference is how the person projects, what their brand is perceived to be, and have they got proof, or can they illustrate that the brand that I'm talking about, that is me, is actually something that I can bring to the company, to the organization.
Yeah. Does your brand ever change?
I think it does. I mean, maybe your core ethos doesn't change, but you can display different kind. I mean, your brand as a parent, how the kids see you, may be different to your brand at work. Both of them are genuine and hopefully have got a good ethos behind them. But your kids are going to see you differently to the way the people at work see you, for instance.
All right. Anything else you want to share on behavior and branding?
If you're doing an interview in the next couple of days, weeks or months, know what you want the interviewer to say about you before you leave after you left that interview. That will make a big difference to how you present at the interview.
All right, so now what I want to do is just sum up a little bit on Chief Gap.
Right.
Let's go through one more time. S.
Right.
Spend a little time just sharing again structure. How do they go about doing that?
Yeah. Job seekers lose structure when they get involved in the job search. You had structure in the previous environment. Now you got to bring it back in. H is about helping others. E is about environment.
Well, let's talk about helping others.
Yeah.
How can they? What should they be doing? Is this helping your neighbor?
It can be something that one of the G is for small, highly achievable goals. One of the small, highly achievable goals job seekers should have is get up in the morning, and my goal today is I want to deliberately, intentionally hear thank you. So when you hear that, you're going to feel better about yourself. That's a small, highly achievable goal. If you go out and make an effort to help people, you're going to feel better about yourself then. The other thing is that in terms of helping others, you're getting involved in maybe a bigger circle. And one of the things we haven't really covered that much, Kim, is that job seekers cannot do this on their own.
Right.
They're used to working with other people at corporate level. Now they are in this environment where naturally they kind of get isolated or feel isolated. And I think one of the most important things job seekers can do is try and take these Chief Gap building blocks and work with other people at the CCC or other places to make them happen. But don't do this work on your own. You will find it incredibly difficult.
Yeah, right. Okay. So E is
about environment. Change your environment. Don't be just working and doing all of your activity at home on the computer.
So go to the library, come to the
library.
center.
Community Career Centre's got great resources, as you obviously know. College of the Page, library, etc., very good places also. So change the environment.
That's very important, to change the environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I is about improving yourself.
Yeah.
And the basic point there, I think, is that you should be able to walk into the interview and say to the interviewer, in the 6 weeks or 6 months, for some people that I've been in job search, I've actually been working hard to improve myself.
And these are the things that I've done.
Yeah. So that I'm actually now a better candidate than when I left my previous position. And I think you can do that. It's not easy, but it goes back to the first building block. Structure some time during the day, each day, to improve yourself. And then you will be able to walk into that interview feeling good and saying, I am a better candidate.
Great. And then
F is for family and friends. And we know that in the job transition process, family can be a real stress point because you're worried about money, your spouse or partner's worried about money, the kids are worried about that you're in a bad mood kind of thing. So ask yourself, how much time am I spending at home taking, as I call it, parking spots from other people at home? Get out of the house so that you'll be able to meet other people, so that when you come back into the house, you can have a conversation with your spouse or family about what you did today.
Great. And G and A and B, we just talked about?
Yeah, goals, attitudes,
and
behavior. Yeah.
Great. Well, Conor, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me on Career Center.
Loved it, Kim. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Great job you're doing at the CCC.
Thank you. And up next, Becky Brillon, Program Director at the Center.
Good things happen at the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. Experience more than 25,000 acres where native plants and animals make their home. Discover the scenic beauty of over 60 forest preserves containing forests, prairies, and wetlands. Explore the wonder of changing seasons along 145 miles of trails. Get outside and discover the good things that happen when you visit DuPage Forest Preserves. The Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, where good things happen.
Welcome back. I am always happy to have join me Becky Brillon, who is the Program Director at the Community Career Center. So Becky, it's March, and we are going to talk about those internships for our high school and college students. I just want to put some tips out there for the students and some things that they should be thinking about. Clearly, they need to have their resume together. And on that resume, we need to speak to, their past job experiences or volunteer experiences. What are some other things they should have?
Well, for students, it might also be about extracurricular activities. It might be about good grades. It might be about some challenging courses they've taken, summer camps that they've done. It was maybe a leadership experience for them. Pretty much anything that makes them unique and stand out to an employer.
And the format for their resume is going to be a little bit different than what we share with other people in terms of where they place these things. So at the top of their resumes, they're probably going to focus more on their education and then go from there.
Yeah, it's likely they should still have a summary statement and areas of expertise or core competencies. It's important to get keywords on a resume. And
Keywords such as?
Keywords would be anything that matches to the posting for the internship. And then from there into education, and then end it with experience. And maybe it's not going to be called professional experience, because at that point in your life, it might just be volunteer experience, something like that. But the schools, especially in the Naperville area, are really good schools. And I know these kids are doing some interesting classes with second languages and
So make sure they highlight their language skills if they have
language
those.
skills, just anything that they can think of. It's critical at that point, at internship point, at graduation point, whether it's high school or college, to already be thinking about big picture. What can you do now that's going to
help you? Because you're competing. I mean, it's a very competitive, just like high school or.
Yeah, and it's hard to think that what you do at this point is going to affect your career in 20 years, but it really comes down to this.
Right.
This is a point where you may not find internships posted in a traditional way as other job seekers. You're probably going to know internships or hear about internships through your parents, through your instructors, professors, through the school. Maybe you'll just be handing the resume to the contact. It may not go online. It may not take the normal channel.
Yeah, I know a lot of schools will have an internship fair of some sort. And so, you're there, you have your resume in hand, and how do you approach a potential employer?
Sure, it's similar to a job fair for a job seeker. At an internship fair, you want to be prepared. You want to have a resume. You want to have a business card, because sometimes business cards are easier to keep track of at a high volume candidate.
We often talk about this. I just want to interrupt. Business cards, most people think, well, why would I have a business card? I don't have a job. But you should create one that kind of speaks to who you are.
Sure, and you may call it a networking card, but I call it business card. Name, phone number, email address, LinkedIn profile. If you got one of those cool, cute QR codes, that's another thing to put on there. It's something.
And it's important for college students, especially, to have a LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's and a professional-looking profile. This is where you have to start thinking about
the next
looking good on social media. You have to just, and you do. You have to start. If you're looking for an internship, you really have to scrub your Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram. Get all that stuff scrubbed so that you look presentable to an employer too.
Yeah, and then we also want to tell students that they need to have that, elevator speech ready as well, right?
Yeah, know what you're going to say. Think about, a lot what Conor was saying. You draw on your brand. What do you want people to remember you for?
Yeah.
And when you're going for an internship, you may not have it all together at that moment about what you want to do ultimately, where you want to go. But if you're talking to an employer and hoping to get some good work experience on the resume, you really need to talk about, where does it start? What are going to be your goals? I tell a lot of our job seekers to volunteer strategically when they're in job search. And this is a lot like this. You need to be strategic with your internship. Don't just go to some place because you heard they'll take anybody.
Right.
Just really sit down and think about where you want to do your internship for.
Right.
And then be persistent, tell them, be enthusiastic and be confident and show up ready to go.
Yeah, kind of what Conor was talking about, that energy level. You have to have that even though you're younger. You have to make sure you're presenting that as well.
And I think interns, students, you don't want to come across as, I mean, let's be real, you just graduated, you don't know everything. Maybe some documents and papers that with your name on them say you know a lot, but at that point, you don't want to come across as, too, as my dad would say, too big for your britches.
Yeah, kind of knowing a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think, students need to make sure they understand is how do they dress? How do they, dress for an interview? This might be the first time you have to put on a pair of khakis and maybe a tie.
Yeah, you want to take some tips from some older, middle-aged role models out there. There's a lot of information. It's what you would expect to wear for an interview is changing. It's not always going to be a conservative blue or black suit for male or female. It might be something more like a cardigan these days. It might be dress pants with more elaborate jewelry than we would normally expect for an interview. It's changing. You just have to be attuned to how it's changing. For students, those rules apply. You don't want to go crazy. You cannot wear your nose ring to the interview. You have to cover up any tattoos.
So just be appropriate in your dress.
Be appropriate.
Yeah.
Longer skirts rather than shorter skirts are even better. Trousers instead of skirts at all.
And really dress depending on, your internship. You really want, if you're going into a corporation where, they dress in suits and ties, and this is how you're going to interview. We also talk about just making sure that students know how to network as they're going through this process. So prior to, say, going to an internship fair, they may attend some sort of networking groups. Is it important? I know we speak to our job seekers about having their handbill, but it's not necessarily important for a student to have a handbill.
Yeah, it might be difficult to draft a handbill for a student. Target companies are important, but again, being real, you might just want to find any company who will just give you a chance starting out. I think when it comes down to networking, there's groups, but again, it comes back to who do your parents know and who's already connected to the school that you've attended. I think it's just important to be aware of the impression you've left with, old people when you were going through school. It really comes back. There's not a lot to say about your experience. It falls back on who knew you, who's aware.
It comes down to who you know,
and
how to get you in the door,
and who you've left some good impressions with.
Right. So we have just a couple more seconds here going on at the Career Center. I know we have the LinkedIn workshops. Workshops are all of our networking groups. Any other standout workshops that we're doing this month?
Yes, we have Travelers Insurance is going to be at the center on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th as the Ask the Recruiter session. Our Ask the Recruiter sessions are wonderful sessions to step into.
And really should be well attended,
Well attended, very well attended. And, we got a panel interview session and just normal focus.
Great. All right. Well, as always, Becky, thank you so much. I also want to thank Conor Cunneen for being a part of this month's edition of Career Center. Remember, if you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, please visit us at the Community Career Center, 1815 West Diehl Road, Suite 900 in Naperville. Thanks so much for watching.